Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I'm really excited to talk to Justin Fortier, and let me tell you a little bit about him. He is a California-based tech entrepreneur. He's the founder and CEO/CTO. So Chief Executive and Chief Technology Officer, did I get that right?
Yeah,
awesome. Of FYC Labs, a boutique design agency which has gained international recognition with clients like REMAX, National University, Budweiser, and Pepsi Co. Notably, Justin has been honored as a finalist for CEO of the Year twice by San Diego Business Journal, and recognized among San Diego's top 50 most influential business leaders. Holding advisory positions at top-level ventures, he's made a significant stride in blockchain, e-commerce, and manufacturing technology. So today we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects to talk about now, and that is how AI can help small businesses grow. And please join me in welcoming my guest, Justin Fortier.
Thanks so much for having me, Vicki.
You're very welcome. Yeah, I just think that this is a great topic. I watched the Jennifer Lopez movie that's on Netflix called Atlas, which was awesome. It was excellent. But I said, as it was starting, I said, is this another movie that's going to make our progress with AI go bad? It's like, but I think that's one of the reasons why I like to have people on that talk about AI and what it can do for you, and look at it not in such a fearful way, if you will. But before we get into all that, please share a little bit. I think I gave it away, but a little bit about where you live. Where do you call home?
Yes, so I'm out in Northern California now. You'll hear some of those accolades we're from, where we started our business down in Southern California in San Diego. It's down there when we started FYC Labs. I now live in an area called El Dorado Hills, just east of Sacramento. So
I love Sacramento.
I grew up in South Lake Tahoe, so I am about as close to the mountains as I can be without actually being in the mountains and shoveling snow full time. So yeah, I love it up here. Skiing, like mountain biking, hiking, fishing. Those are my favorite things to do. So I'm in a really great place for that. Ecosystem's really interesting up here for business. Lots of GovTech projects going on. It's actually a little burgeoning small AI scene from the community that I work with. That's been pretty fun. So yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's exciting. And I do love that area. For my past job, I spent a good bit of time up and down the coast of California, Seattle, going up through Washington. And so some of my favorite places are there. So excellent.
Yeah.
So why don't you share your story? You know, we gave all those accolades, and we know that you didn't start out, most likely, at that point. What was the driving force that took you maybe out of college to doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, so our story is pretty interesting. Actually, mine in particular, interesting journey. So I graduated grad school in 2010, which is probably 2008, 2009, 2010 was not a great time to
not a great time
enter the workforce, right? So I got lucky and had some really great friends who were in the actually the nightlife and restaurant industry who brought me in, and just I was I like to say that I helped build that place from the ground up because I helped them install the floors, right? So
Nice.
I have a master's degree in communication, cleaning floors, installing floors, working at a bar, doing my thing. But it was actually one of the most valuable experiences of my life because I was able to work with small business owners and really get to know how business runs from kind of the ground up. So it was really cool. We built a really great program over there. We won a lot of awards as top bar in San Diego. We won best nightlife, best dance bar. We brought in huge DJs and acts from back in that era that had no business playing at a bar as small as ours, and we had a really cool time. So it was a special time in my life that I really attribute a lot back to, but it was not. No, it was not the most ideal time to be entering the workforce with a higher level degree. So what do? I get married, and my wife says, "Nah, you're not working in the bar nightlife industry anymore. No, this is not happening. We're gonna have kids. We're gonna do our thing, right?" So I met one of the designers for our flyers and our menus came to me and said, "Hey, can I get a busboy job?" And I said, "Are you kidding? You're like a world-renowned UX designer and amazing graphic artist, cartoonist. No, let's go start a business together." So that's how I started my business, was kind of out of, hey, let's go do, I had an amazing opportunity to work with just pure talent. This guy, Pablo Marquez, he goes, his like screen name is Pablo Stanley. Incredible person, incredible creative genius. So him and I worked together and to start the business. We go about 3 years working together, getting things going, doing mostly mom and pop shops, just WordPress websites, menus, flyers, fun stuff and creative. He goes and gets allured away by the big Silicon Valley tech scene. He goes and works at Udemy. He starts Carbon Health. He just done amazing things. I went and started a SaaS manufacturing SaaS company with a friend of mine as kind of just more of an operations role, software developer, and just kind of started getting into the software world outside of just the creative side. Meanwhile, the business is kind of staying status quo. We had, it's just a small boutique agency, not doing much, getting some decent clients. We had REMAX at the time. It was fun. And then I stumbled my way into into blockchain. And that was incredible. That pushed my technical prowess to limit. It also gave me an appreciation for emerging technologies like AI. So it also helped me understand what it's like to be on the precipice of that, and understanding what there's a common misconception of what the public thinks is happening behind the scenes and what's actually happening with the technologies. And a lot of it is just still so new and so kind of not fully understood. And the public tends to take that and go, whoa, it's actually all these things. And you're like, well, it's actually just kind of one thing right now. And when we get to the AI topic, there'll be a lot of similarities that I saw when blockchain and cryptocurrency was coming up. So I had a lot of fun there. I was on the technology side of cryptocurrency. I was not a trader or anything like that. We were building blockchain technologies, building our own chain, working on Ethereum, really cool stuff. Then the next step in the journey was I had an offer to acquire my agency, my little agency that I kind of had on the side, not doing much with. So I said, yeah, I'll go back and do that. So I talked to my team at the blockchain company, said, hey, I'm going to go do this thing. We're going to a little acquisition offer. Maybe I'll make a quick buck and get out of here with my agency. I go back, I start working there, and the individual who wanted to buy the company from us, it was just one of the greatest people to work with. So I'm like, why would I leave? We hit all of our numbers. I hit all my earn out numbers. I blew past all my earn out numbers. And I'm like, now that I've grown the agency, why would I leave this thing? It's doing really well. So I decided, hey, I'm going to go do this agency thing full time, left the blockchain world and went back to the agency side. And since then, my partner, Graham Peck, and a really great friend of mine and a great partner, have built a startup studio. So a lot of what you're going to hear about that we work on is FYC Labs, which is just our agency. That's kind of like our services business, which allows us to work on a lot of different projects. But at the end of the day, what we've built is kind of a startup studio. We call it Fractal Group. I can give a little bit more information about that later. But what we've done is we've built up smaller product businesses inside of that, as well as more services businesses, as well as created a venture arm where we've invested into startups and helped them get started and do advising as well.
Awesome.
So the journey, like you said, I did not start there. No, there's no business in starting there. Like that's, and a lot of my experience is not going to come from more traditional routes of working in maybe Fortune 500 companies. Mine's more of what the small business owner and the kind of fringe of innovators are doing to create progress.
Oh, so interesting. So when we talk about startups, so, how can they navigate the complexities of adopting AI? There are a lot of AI technologies out there from, it's beyond the Chat GPT, which they might be familiar with. So talk about cost and the scalability and integration with that, with their existing systems. And that's just our starting question. We can get into some
Yeah.
more.
I think a lot of these folks have been dabbling in AI for years. A lot of startups, really just around machine learning, mostly around predictive analytics, and saying, "Oh, if we have these conditions, we can predict these conditions will occur." Right, like
Yeah.
straightforward. Now old school AI, right?
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Google is really old school AI, really.
Right? Like if you think of it's kind of that old school, yeah, it's funny to think about it now that way. But yeah, that was kind of what we saw early on. And there was a lot of just like, okay, this is kind of neat, but the data sets needed to make real predictions were just enormous. And you really couldn't, very few startups and small businesses could have access to those large data sets. And they couldn't generate models powerful enough to really break away. And really it was the big folks who could actually do
Mm-hmm.
things because they had enough data to serve it. And now what we're talking about is LLMs, generative AI. That's the trend that basically democratized access to that data set.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at now all the innovation that those folks wanted to have back with their machine learning ideas and all this. Oh, AI can help us predict this or do that and
Yeah.
help us
Yeah.
generate this. They now finally have access to all of that. There's some downsides to it. We'll talk about some of the dark sides of it in like later,
Yes.
right? I don't want to, I do agree
Mm-hmm.
generally with you, like, hey, this is a positive thing that's happening and how, small business can leverage it. But there's definitely some darker sides to it that you have to be very careful of.
That's
But
exactly right.
yeah, it's pretty cool to see startups now have access to these larger language models and the data sets that they never had access before via as a developer, very simple APIs. These are not difficult APIs to set up. Anybody who's finished a boot camp can come in and start interacting with these models. So it's really like a
Well,
developer.
from a startup standpoint too, generally they don't have huge staffing or resources, and so simple is good. Time saving. Let's talk about time saving for those individuals too.
Right. I mean, think about all the write-ups that they need to put together. Their pitch deck is getting supported by AI. They're reporting back to their investors. We're thinking about like, VC founded startups or these little small
Mm-hmm.
startups, right? There's a lot of clerical work that needs to get done for them to kind of maintain that communication and that cadence with all
Yeah.
of the community. This becomes so easy for them to put it together, and it's really good. I mean, you always need to proofread your work. It does have its hallucinations. We've all seen that, but generating that content's great. Now they all need to be aware that they're not the only ones doing that. So this isn't a competitive advantage. This just gives them opportunities to stay focused on their product.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, leveraging it more than your startup next door maybe is a competitive advantage, but really with the democratization of it, it's you have to be able to do it now. You just to
Yeah.
stay up, just to keep up.
Well, and you just have to think about it. You're, as the business owner or entrepreneur, you need to focus on the strategy and going out and getting the business and doing your whatever expertise you have. And the administrative stuff oftentimes bogs you down, and maybe you can get a VA or somebody like that, but anything that can help the timing of it and the quality of it too. Yes, you do have to proofread it, but a lot of people struggle with creativity of content. And if you could have, ask that AI to give you 5 or 6 different iterations that you can look at and say, oh gosh, I never thought of it that way, but maybe if we tweaked it here or there, it saves hours,
Right.
not minutes, hours.
It does level the playing field a bit of those who kind of had an advantage just because they could put a fancy polish on a deck or some
Yeah,
memo that instead now anybody can kind of have that. Now it comes down to actually, are you running your operations? How are your systems? What is your culture
yeah,
like? So now it's kind of leveled the playing field from some of the fluff to now you have no excuse to not execute.
yeah. And um, data analytics too, I think can be much faster um, to be, review a lot more information. And so that's why I'm saying some of this stuff is really um, old school AI that we didn't really think of
Right.
as artificial intelligence, but it's kind of doing the same thing.
But the
What
cool
are,
thing is there's a lot of systems out there that are creating access to this GPUs, the processing that's needed to do a lot of this work because there's enough
mm,
demand for it now. So NVIDIA, AWS are partnering up to create larger clusters of GPU servers, meaning like the servers required to run complex AI models.
yeah,
They're kind of opening that up more because there's enough demand. Before there wasn't enough demand to run these things, and it's pushing the cloud providers and the service providers to create more resources for folks to do this. So the analytics becomes where, I talked about before, the compute power, the data sets, it's
mm-hmm.
becoming more accessible for folks to do it. And there's much more initiative and innovation going on there. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and really the more people that put into the back end, really, the greater the results can be, the more richer
Yeah.
the results.
Yeah.
So what are some misconceptions or challenges that entrepreneurs would face when they're adopting AI? And how can they overcome those obstacles or at least lessen them?
Yeah. I mean, the misconceptions are getting clarified with last year. The last couple podcasts I was on, I talked a little bit about that it doesn't have the ability to do X or Y or Z. It's moving so fast that those things that I said it couldn't do 6 months ago, and to calm down, and the ideas that people had around using it, it's become incredible how fast AI is moving. It's a little bit unnerving if you're on my side of the house sometimes with cybersecurity, but some of the misconceptions I've seen like to date is that it'll just magically make things for you. Those things that it's making, like a lot of people think, oh, I can just make an app. I just give it a prompt and it'll make an app. They're not understanding the importance of how to interact with it and prompt the right questions, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually a really interesting experiment in human curiosity that we're going to find out what kind of questions are people asking, how deeply do people engage, and how quickly can they kind of iterate on things, where that'll be a differentiator for you as an entrepreneur, is like your ability to prompt and your ability to find ways to get your models to do the things you need it to do. It's not just a simple fence toss. A lot of people think it's just a simple fence toss, but no, it's work. It's actually work to get it to do what you need it to do. There's a really cool new Marbleism is the name of the product. Check it out. It's not there yet. Again, another one of those misconceptions that I can just write a couple prompts and I get a mobile app, but it is by far the closest thing to prompting to create an application in software that I've ever seen.
Oh, wow.
But it takes work. You need to know the technical terms. You need to know still the jargon in order to get the right prompt and get the right results from it. But it's getting really close to say, hey, build me an app that does X, Y, and Z. It actually generates a code base that can be handed off to a developer if they want to iterate on it. It's pretty incredible.
And, one of the challenges, misconceptions, or fears, I don't know what category it might fall under, but well, it's going to take away jobs. But as you talk about the things that it does, like even prompts, there will be people that become experts at writing prompts that you could be consultants for that. And, there are just so many things that I think it's going to create more jobs. As you talked about cybersecurity, that is going to be a whole industry, I'm sure, for that. But
that's a real thing.
I think that there's a lot of opportunities if we just allow ourselves to be creative. One of the things that you talked about, the prompts and the questions, a lot of people are not great at asking questions, in interviews or whatever. And I find that the more you get good and creative and curious in your questions for AI, it can be just transferable when I'm talking to you and asking you questions, and how do those questions get reactions, negative, positive, or dull.
Right.
So I think that's an advantage of this, because now it's really teaching you a skill that you didn't really realize that you needed, but it's now all of a sudden happening.
What's kind of cool, couple of thoughts on that. First, I actually have a friend whose job is called prompt engineer. He went from being a content writer to a prompt engineer working for Meta. It's
cool.
awesome. Secondly, what we're seeing now is critical thinking that we were taught, you know, through college and through high school and just in life, now becomes this interesting transition into critical thinking toward how do I ask the right questions from a kind of omniscient AI that I look back, my bachelor's degree is in law and society. So I was well on my way to go to law school. So I have this sort of like argument mentality, this sort of question mentality, this sort of interrogation mentality that was really helpful, that I didn't realize I could quickly prompt things and get the results that I was looking for, because I knew how to ask the right question and kind of iterate along that. And it's funny, like developers consider themselves professional Googlers. You know, that's back in the day, like, oh, they knew how to write the right Google query to find the solution to solve whatever problem it was. And it's kind of become that same thing. It's like you just get really good at asking the right questions. You get really good at getting to where you need to go, which actually comes from a critical thinking mindset. So where we sort of called a lot of those soft skills and we focused so heavily on technical skills for a little while there, going back to the soft skills of how to be a critical thinker is now more important, because you don't need the technical skill as much as you did. So you need the technical jargon, you need to understand the technical, like, basic concepts, but you don't need to know the literal syntax any longer of doing things.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I just think I just feel like, you know, I'm 66, so I was around when computers just came in, you know, that was, so now to be in this new frontier of AI, it's great. I mean, it's just an awesome thing.
Yeah.
Can you give some examples of some tailored solutions you've implemented for businesses that really help them to be able to grow, and the approach you had to take maybe to address the individual challenges that they might have had to get them to integrate that?
Yeah, so on the quickest thing that LLMs provided, and without sounding too technical, is they created what are called vector databases and embeddings. So what those do is they create mathematical representations of our language that allow us to create similarity scores, as if it was two plots on a chart, and say how similar, how close were these two things, these two phrases. That's kind of how the LLM helps predict its language and how it sort of understands what you're saying. Is it's like, oh, this is kind of like that, and that's kind of like this. Okay, this is what they mean. So what I've been able to do really quickly is create everybody's favorite Netflix algorithm for any kind of matching service. So the first one we did this experiment on, and at this point, it was only a year and a half ago, but the technology is basically well deprecated legacy. I didn't need to do, if I had built that today, I would need to do like about a quarter of the work. But what we did was we created a matching service between organizations, like startups, nonprofits, and grants. So matching them with the appropriate grants so that they could just kind of be fit right into, oh, this is a great grant for you. You should go apply for this. And then eventually using generative AI to generate the content that they would put into that grant. So that we partnered with a really cool company called grants.ai. But the initial matching was really fun. That was the first experiment I had in creating that vector database embedding matching. So it allowed us to kind of create that Netflix algorithm. Now I've implemented that 4 times over since, with better and better matching algorithms. And it's really fun. And but the challenges on there is, again, you just have to get that rich description. You have to learn how to kind of put that profile together for the two matches, right? It's some, like, what do they call them? Like eHarmony and all those, like, matching your profiles. So we were kind of doing the same type of thing, and it kind of it democratized that sort of that proprietary layer that those big platforms had. The Netflix algorithm, the eHarmony matching gave us now an ability to do that based off of these vector databases. So that was one of the cool immediate use cases for AI. Obviously, generative AI, we've been doing a lot of fun stuff around generating landing pages, generating marketing content, which is a simple prompt. We came out with a product called pagebuilder.ai, Paige, like Paige, the woman's name, right? And it has an AI in it. It's super cute. It's P and then AI.
I see that.
It's a great name. It's an awesome name. So we built a proprietary, or kind of like a product that we're taking to market for WordPress websites, because WordPress is still powering the internet, where you can just put in a prompt, right? You can put in a prompt and it'll generate out a landing page for you inside WordPress. It also helps with sort of any structured content. So you basically put in your prompts and it brings out really beautifully structured SEO. It brings out beautifully structured proposal content that you can map into different fields if you need. So We've had about 9 or 10 customers go on that. That's really fun. And we're
Mm.
generating out landing pages. We've seen SEO improvements by 700x and signups by over
Wow.
150x for user signups on some of these generative landing pages. So because you want to be found, right? So you need to cover every topic. So for example, us here in El Dorado Hills, Folsom, Sacramento, we created a landing page for dev shops in Folsom, dev shops in Sacramento, dev shops in El Dorado Hills, dev shops in
Ah,
Northern California. So you could just kind of create that recursive action that just generates that landing content for users to be able to find you easier, because it's still, people are still Googling for things like that. You can't
yeah,
Google, you can't AI for your local restaurant. So those have been really
exactly.
powerful. And those are just simple use cases for small businesses. Obviously, there's some bigger stuff going on with, we worked with a product called Prompt Crafter, and my friend is working on something called Pooley, where he has like these assistants that help you answer questions about your pool care, or
Ah,
really cool stuff that some stuff with image manipulation and kind of replacing images. We've already played with some of
nice.
those APIs. And at the end of the day, what's cool is it's made a developer like me who really doesn't know much about machine learning or Python or AI, but I'm able to tap into these APIs and do really cool things for my clients.
Yeah, so nice. And the great thing is that, say you had somebody in your organization that was doing that, and it's not like, oh, well, now I have to let him go and or her go and get somebody else that has this new technology, new skill set. As you said, you could just have that person learn how to do this new thing.
There will be a minor arms race, or there is a minor arms race going on, where some folks who kind of had, and this happens every time a new technology rolls about, some people who are kind of stuck in this one way of doing it get replaced by this easier way of doing it. And if they're smart, they'll, like my friend who was a content writer, right? He was a copywriter. He wrote a lot of blog
Hmm.
content. He goes, okay, I'm not going to get left behind. Let me jump over and start becoming a prompt engineer. Those who can pivot quickly will do well, because there's a new, again, that I use this
Yeah,
term a lot, democratization of access to this technology that says you can have critical thinking, creative ideas, and now you can implement those into with AI. You don't have to just be an AI engineer who with just that one trick pony. Now you need to be able to have both. So there's a little
nice
bit of, I wouldn't say we're necessarily replacing jobs, but there's going to be a shift in
shift.
who's getting more access, who's able to be more productive. In the next, I mean, I wouldn't even say the next, it's happening right now, and we're watching
Yeah,
it happen. And it's really interesting to see.
yeah. So again, if I go back to my times when computers started, you had people that uh, quickly adopted. Like for me, I was a terrible typist, so I quickly adopted to any kind of computer system, and from the electric typewriter to the floppy disk and trash 80s, and then Apple came out with their little box. And so it's, for me, it was keep on adapting, keep on pivoting, and adding to my resource or my abilities to do things. And that got me promoted before I got a degree. So that,
Well, that sort of
keep
mindset allows
pivoting.
you to build. Yeah, I mean, that sort of mindset leads you to, find your leadership confidence, right? The whole
Hmm.
intention of this podcast is to maintain that leadership confidence. And
Yeah,
if you don't stay up with trends and do your thing, and stay innovative and pivot when needed, you'll lose some of that leadership confidence, I'm sure. So it is part
well,
of this.
yeah,
As much as we think it's maybe a technical thing or a whatever thing, it's still, leaders need to be aware of it. They need to be active in it. They need to get their hands dirty with it, know how it works, and then they can lead with that in
yeah.
mind.
I always say that confidence comes from courage, and courage is a good sign of a leader who's not afraid to fail, to try, to fail. I don't, here's a job for you. I don't know how to do it, but I'll try. And
Yeah.
that's how
My
you can get
my
ahead.
my entrance essay into University of California, Santa Barbara was entitled "Confidence and Courage."
How about there? You go. There you go. So w- with all of the rapid advancements of AI, and for all the entrepreneurs and small business owners out there, it's like, I just don't know where to start. What would you suggest to be able to dip their toe in the water, get comfortable with it, or is there a resource like yourself that could give them guidance?
No, of course. I mean, you can reach out to us at fyclabs.com, shameless plug.
Mhm.
And you can check it out and you can reach out to us and we'll go ahead and start working. If you're working on some sort of product and you're not sure how to integrate AI into your software, that would be a good place to start. If you are, it still surprises me that the people who are on the fringes who are like, oh, I haven't used GPT yet. I'm like,
I know why. It's
dude,
like,
I I think there's sort of like they feel like maybe they're cheating.
yeah. Mm.
Right. It's funny, the folks that I've talked to actually are in government, they're like, oh, I don't know. It's just sort of like, it's kind of like that. There was resistance to Wikipedia early on. I remember that. And
Oh, yeah.
right. Oh, it's not they're, you don't know where these sources are coming from, blah, 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 which that's where the critical thinking and sort of like having the right cap on this is, hey, don't be naive, but don't, just waste this tool. So I
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know where to get you started. I don't know how to be in that mindset. I've always been on the mindset of like, let's try it. Let's play with these new tools. Like once we saw it, I think it's just interact with it. It's free. You can ask it a few questions, have it
Yeah.
write you a thank you letter to your uncle for a birthday present or something, right? Just see if it can do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And we'll
And make it sound like Oprah.
yeah, exactly.
And it's like, but I'm telling you, whenever I do small trainings on it, just to get, people engaged, I'll just do some simple things and just ask them before I start, okay, how long would it take you to do this? Find a product name. That always used to
Right.
be the bane of my existence as a project leader. And, we'd take days and walls lined with Post-its of terrible names and great names, and nobody could decide on any names. And, and so we just started throwing things in ChatGPT, and in seconds, it gave this long list of things, and it's like, okay, now give me the top 5 of those. And it, get that down to the top 5.
What you kind of described as like a solo entrepreneur who might not
Mhm.
have that co-founder to bounce ideas off of, and what you just described was bouncing ideas off of someone. And that
Yeah,
solo
absolutely.
entrepreneur who might feel alone at times, might feel like, oh, I just need that second set of eyes, can actually get that review, and they can feel less alone. They can feel more empowered. It's really nice for that as well.
Yeah, and it's satisfying. Just like, oh, awesome, way to go.
Should we be careful about some things though? Should we
Oh,
maybe? I mean, I don't want
yes.
to scare
Oh,
your
yeah, yeah,
listeners.
yeah, yeah. So, well, for me, I read all my content first, and then I asked ChatGPT to make it sound better or make sure it's grammatically
Proofread, yeah.
correct, those things, make it more engaging, make it funny. And so it's kind of fun to have them take your words and play around with it. And 80% of it is your words. It's
Yep.
just, oh, that's a great way to start that. Oh,
Yeah.
no, that's too dry. I don't like that at all.
I'll throw
So,
some content in there that says, am I using too much jargon, or is this confusing? Is there any points of confusion that someone might get out of this, explanation? And they go, well, you could try to like use a more of analogy here. It's kind of cool because it helps me with writing, sometimes being on both sides of the house, CEO, CTO, I've got to use both sides of that brain.
mhm.
And sometimes it's hard to articulate certain things without sounding too technical or being not technical enough when we're interacting with your dev team. So it's like, I use it as that sort of translator at times for me to help create a like better
And that's
expression.
a really good point, because some of the people that I work with are academic, and so they're putting all these huge words out, but their audience is just the normal Joe kind of thing. And so, we always say have a 5th grade. So I'll just say, put this
Right.
in how a 5th grader can understand it.
Yes. And it always ends up with some analogy that just works really well.
Mhm.
It always does
Yeah.
analogous. So
Well, time has flown by. Enjoyed so much our chat with this, and I'm sure we could get together in another 3 months and have all new stuff to talk about.
yeah, right. It's not slowing down. The genie is out of the bottle.
Yeah. But what would be maybe 2 or 3 tips that you'd like people to walk away with regarding using AI to grow their business?
So first of all, just embrace it for what you can, with what you can, use it for what makes sense, and kind of like we talked about, some of that bureaucratic clerical work that you'd normally have to take a longer time for, it would take too much brain energy. It's always great for
Mhm.
that. The other one is reach out to a team if you want to build something interesting inside of your product. So if you are a software development team, company, or a software product company, reaching out to a team like ours who has really good knowledge of the APIs can move very fast. You'd be surprised at how little it costs and how quick we can move to get things done. There is one more, which is just do be careful. This is a technology that has the ability to be put in hands of people who want to do it for kind of malicious reasons. The cybersecurity risks are real. The access to being able to write nefarious scripts is more available than ever. So go to your dev teams, go to your IT people, make sure that you're secure, make sure you have everything on cleaned up, because these scripts are just going to be out there crawling sites. I'm not concerned about, what is it, the singularity or some AI takeover. That's not mine. I'm more concerned about small time hackers who throw together simple scripts that can do a lot of spoofing with generative AI. They can spoof your voice, they can spoof your likeness. So make sure you talk your likeness. Make sure you talk to your teams and make sure you're aware of what the potential risks are, and that, go shore up all of your IT security. That's number one thing. We have seen an increase in attacks since OpenAI, because it is easier to I'm not trying to scare anyone, but it is definitely a significant increase. So because of the access to these scripts to be able to, hey, write me a script that does X, you could do something that's pretty nefarious if you want. So
yeah.
But yeah,
it's always
mostly positive.
Well, in anything in business, you always have to be aware that somebody's going to try to do something nefarious, and that's not good. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and share my slide. If you are just listening and you have not been taking notes, I always say shame on you. Go get a paper and pencil. It's time for me to share my screen with contact information for Justin. So if you're listening, the website is fyclabs.com. That's fyclabs.com. On Facebook and Instagram, it is the same, FYC Labs. And LinkedIn, it's Justin F. Fortier. So that's JUSTIN FFORTIER. And Twitter, he is Fortier Justin _Justin. And YouTube, he's at FYC Labs. And I will turn it over to Justin right now to talk to you about what you'll find when you go to the website, as well as any of those social media or YouTube, what you'll find there.
Yeah, mostly hang out with me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. Make a lot of friends there, a lot of connections. So like to share a lot of content that we work with. So if there's one place where you'd really want to interact, it'd be LinkedIn. Facebook and Instagram are just kind of updates, fun, and things to keep up with. But LinkedIn's where if you want to connect and you have a project idea or just, want to talk, I'm happy to chat on LinkedIn. fyclabs.com is our main website. So you'll see a lot of our work, our portfolio, our service that we provide, mostly full stack development, UI UX design. We're not a big agency that just will find staffing for you. We're not just going to fence toss you to somebody we've never met. Everybody who works with us has been personally trained by me, and I work with everybody at the company. We're about 50, so we're not too big, not too small. So a really fun agency to work with. So if you are looking for some dev help, whether it's a website, some AI integration into your site, or software development, new product, web portals, that type of thing, we help out with all of those.
Awesome. Well, Justin, it has been just a wonderful time chatting with you. As I said, I love talking about AI, and it is exciting and sometimes scary, but mostly exciting. And it's just something that I think is going to change the world. And if we all do it consciously and keep our ears and our eyes open, we can make I think a huge difference in our productivity and the quality of what we put out there, and maybe get some creativity juices back again. As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling, signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.